He's flying over basically the middle of nowhere when he sees a startling and unusual formation amongst the rocks below, which of course he photographs.
What in the world would a boat be doing way up there?
Almost everyone who's been to Sunday school has heard the story of how Noah received instructions from God to build an ark to enable he and his family survive a coming flood. Centuries after this, Ron Wyatt, an adventurer and self-taught researcher, curious about the truth, goes in search of the remains of the ark.
He may just have stumbled onto the answer, some people think, of a great biblical mystery that has been out there for thousands of years.
Could these photos be proof that Noah's tale is, in fact, true?
Too petrified, the chilling details of what he found were left hidden until moments before his death. Join us in this video as we explore the terrifying details of what Ron Wyatt found in Noah's Ark. The origin story. To appreciate the weight of Wyatt's claims, we have to go back to where the story begins. The account of Noah's Ark appears in the book of Genesis. Noah, a direct descendant of Adam, is described as the only righteous man left in a world that had become deeply corrupt. According to the story, God decided to start over and instructed Noah to build an ark made of gopher wood and built to exact specifications. Genesis 7:14 and the verses around it lay out the instructions clearly. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The Bible gives exact measurements for the ark. Its length was to be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. God instructed Noah to include a window at the top, place the door on the side, and build the ark with 3 levels: lower, middle, and upper decks. Then came the warning, "I am bringing flood waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh that has the breath of life. Everything on earth will die." These weren't vague directions. They were precise, detailed, and directly given by God. It's one of the first moments in Scripture where we see God not only commanding, but engineering, laying out architectural instructions and guiding His chosen servant step by step. The story goes on to tell us that Noah obeyed without hesitation. According to the Bible, it took him nearly 75 years to finish the ark, and by the time he completed it, he was over 600 years old. This shows just how patient and unwavering Noah was. He kept building, year after year, even though rain had never fallen before in his lifetime. Imagine trusting God enough to prepare for a global flood when you had never seen a single drop of rain. We know the rest of the story. The animals enter the ark 2 by 2. The sky finally breaks open, the floodwaters rise, and Noah's family is protected. Eventually, the ark comes to rest on Mount Ararat. God establishes a new covenant with humanity and marks it with a rainbow stretched across the sky. But then comes the big question. What happened to the ark afterward? That mystery is what explorers, adventurers, and archaeologists have been chasing for generations. The Bible never tells us what happened to the ark after it landed on Mount Ararat. Scripture goes silent, leaving its final fate a mystery. Does Mount Ararat still hold pieces of the ark? How much remains can be found on it? Keep watching to find out. Terrifying remains of the ark discovered. Today, Mount Ararat is a protected site under Turkish government control. For decades, no excavations were allowed. But in the 1950s, something unexpected happened. A Turkish army captain named İlhan Durupanar was flying over the region when he spotted a strange shape on the mountainside. It looked unnatural, almost like the outline of a massive ship. When the area was examined more closely, the formation measured roughly 538 feet long and had a distinct boat-like shape. Earthquakes and heavy rains had supposedly exposed the buried structure, revealing what looked like the hull of something enormous. Word spread quickly. Teams from the BBC and National Geographic visited in the 1960s, and the site drew worldwide attention. Locals added to the intrigue. Their name for the nearby mountain was Kuri Dagi, which is believed to come from Quranic references to Al-Judi, the place the Quran describes as the final resting spot of Noah's Ark. Ron Wyatt, an American adventurer and self-taught biblical archaeologist, heard about the strange formation and traveled to the site himself. Many scientists had already dismissed the structure as a natural formation with no real significance. But Wyatt saw something different. And then, almost unbelievably, an earthquake struck the region in 1978. When Ron Wyatt returned to the site afterward, he made a discovery that changed everything. The quake had caused the soil along the edges of the formation to drop away. This exposed a long, clean, transverse crack running the entire length of the structure. That crack revealed something crucial. The formation wasn't just a random heap of dirt shaped like a boat. It was a single, unified structure, something intentionally crafted. But it gets even more interesting. As Wyatt continued surveying the area, he found pieces that had broken off from the structure. When analyzed, these fragments turned out to be petrified wood. According to Wyatt, because Mount Ararat is a volcanic region, pyroclastic flows may have swept through the valley multiple times. That could have buried, heated, and ultimately petrified any wooden object under the ash and volcanic material, preserving it for thousands of years. Still, all of this evidence was nothing compared to the next unexpected find. Wyatt discovered fossilized animal dung. Now, finding dung itself isn't surprising. But what was surprising is that when scientists examined it, the dung didn't match any species known to have lived in the area. It belonged to an animal that simply wasn't native to that region. Exactly what you'd expect if the Ark had carried creatures from all over the ancient world. What does this further reveal? What else did Wyatt find? Keep watching to find out. Terrifying things Ron Wyatt found in Noah's Ark. The clues didn't stop there. The rock formations around the structure showed patterns of erosion that suggested the entire object had come from a higher elevation and settled into its current resting place. This would perfectly match the biblical description. As the floodwaters receded, the Ark would have slowly descended from the heights of the mountain to lower levels, not climbed upward. All these signs together painted a picture that was becoming harder and harder to ignore. Normally, when a ship runs aground, the sand or rock around it shows sideways pressure, lateral strain that reveals it crashed into place. But at this site, the pressure patterns were reversed. Everything pointed downward, as if the structure had settled from above, not slid in from the side. This only strengthened Wyatt's belief that they were looking at something extraordinary. He began collaborating with experts across multiple fields, including history, archaeology, and geology, bringing in anyone who could help verify the evidence. Because the Turkish government prohibited digging or excavation, Wyatt turned to ground-penetrating radar to look beneath the surface. And what the scans revealed stunned not only Christians, but people around the world. The interior wasn't solid rock. It was hollow, divided into what looked like compartments or rooms. Even more surprising, the radar detected long, beam-like shapes made of organic material, exactly what you'd expect from the support structures of a massive wooden ship. The radar data was sent to laboratories for further analysis. When geophysical survey experts examined the results, they reached a startling conclusion. The formation was not natural. It was man-made. Everything found so far points to the fact that the Durupanar formation, the structure discovered in the 1950s is the true resting place of Noah's Ark. The final truth remains locked beneath the soil. If the Turkish government ever allows full-scale excavations, we may finally learn once and for all whether this is the very place where Noah, his family, and the survivors of the flood began a new covenant with God. But how did Ron Wyatt come about such courage to explore this scary site? And why did he remain silent until before he passed away? Keep watching to find out. How Ron Wyatt found the Ark. Ronald Eldon. Wyatt was an American nurse anesthetist who became known for his controversial claims as a self-taught biblical archaeologist. Throughout his life, he said he discovered nearly 100 archaeological sites connected to the Bible, including what he believed to be the landing place of Noah's Ark at the Durupanar Formation. However, Wyatt's claims were widely rejected. Some creationists called his work fraudulent, and a representative of the Israel Antiquities Authority dismissed his findings as the kind of trash you see in tabloids like the National Enquirer. Professional archaeologists and biblical scholars do not view his discoveries as credible. Wyatt worked as a nurse anesthetist in Madison, Tennessee. His interest in archaeology began in 1960 after he saw a Life magazine photo of the Durupanar site, an unusual boat-shaped formation near Mount Ararat. The excitement this image caused within evangelical communities sparked his desire to investigate it himself. From 1977 until his death, Wyatt made more than 100 trips to the Middle East. Over time, he expanded his focus far beyond Noah's Ark, claiming to have found numerous Old and New Testament sites and artifacts. His museum, the Wyatt Archaeological Museum in Cornersville, Tennessee, displays many of the items connected to his claims. Wyatt died of bone cancer on August 4, 1999, at age 66 in Memphis, Tennessee. He was laid to rest at Polk Memorial Park Cemetery in Columbia, Tennessee. Did Wyatt really discover the things he claimed? How factual are his claims? Let's see. The truth behind Wyatt's discoveries. The Garden Tomb Association in Jerusalem has publicly rejected Ron Wyatt's claims. In a letter they provide to visitors, the association states, "The Garden Tomb Association completely denies Wyatt's claim that he discovered the original Ark of the Covenant, or any other biblical artifact within the Garden Tomb grounds." Although Wyatt was permitted to dig in the privately owned garden several times, including his final excavation in the summer of 1991, staff members monitored his work and even entered the shaft he created. To our knowledge, nothing was ever found that supports his claims, and we have seen no evidence of biblical artifacts or temple treasures. Joe Zias, an archaeologist with the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, has also spoken out strongly. He noted, "Ron Wyatt is not an archaeologist, nor has he ever conducted a legally licensed excavation in Israel or Jerusalem. To excavate here, you must have at least a BA in archaeology, which he does not have. Despite what he claims, his stories belong in tabloids like the National Enquirer or The Sun." Wyatt's organization, Wyatt Archaeological Research, has responded by asserting that the IAA was always aware of their work and supposedly issued verbal permits for most of Wyatt's excavations. They also state that all war-related excavations since 2002 have had official permits. However, the only documented evidence of war's involvement in a legitimate IAA-sanctioned project is war helping to fund an excavation in 2005. Even within evangelical circles, Wyatt's claims have faced heavy criticism. Answers in Genesis labeled his work as fraudulent. Seventh-day Adventist scholar and archaeology professor David Merling offered detailed critiques of Wyatt's Noah's Ark claims, explaining that, while the Durupanar Formation is roughly the correct length for the biblical ark, it is far too wide. Wyatt insisted the boat-like shape could only mean it was Noah's Ark, but other scholars, such as Shea and Morris, have provided far more plausible geological explanations. Wyatt also claimed that certain large standing stones he found were ancient anchor stones. But other archaeologists, like Terrian, recognized similar stones in the region that were actually pagan ritual objects, later reused by early Christians for religious purposes. To what extent do these revelations counter Wyatt's claims? What are the facts about Noah's Ark? Keep watching to find out. Counter-theories about Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is the vessel described in the book of Genesis. According to the biblical story, God uses the ark to save Noah, his family, and a male and female pair of every animal species from a worldwide flood. Scholars point out that the Genesis story draws from much older Mesopotamian flood traditions. Myths about a great life-destroying deluge appear as early as the Old Babylonian period. The account that most closely resembles the biblical version and is widely considered its primary source is the story of Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The two narratives share themes, structure, measurements, and even phrasing, though they offer different explanations for why the flood occurred. Some researchers also see parallels between the ark's design and the layout of the ancient Jewish temple. Across Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Gnosticism, Mandaism, and the Baha'i faith, the ark has taken on symbolic, spiritual, and theological meanings. Early Jewish and Christian writers, such as the historian Flavius Josephus, believed the ark still physically existed. Attempts to locate it date back at least to the time of Eusebius in the 3rd to 4th centuries CE, though none have been successful. The story also appears in the Quran, where the ark is called Safinat Nuh, or simply Al-Fulk, the vessel. Today, Noah's Ark remains a powerful cultural symbol, inspiring literature, theology, artwork, and even large-scale modern replicas. Believers continue to search for Noah's Ark even today, but no scientific evidence has ever confirmed its existence. Similarly, there is no geological evidence supporting a global flood as described in the Bible. According to researcher Robert Moore, the ark and the flood, as described, would have involved physical impossibilities. Some scholars suggest that the story may have been inspired by a real but localized flood in the ancient Middle East. Candidates include a major flood in the Persian Gulf, or the Black Sea deluge around 7,500 years ago. Interestingly, the structure of the ark and the timing of the flood reflect symbolic connections to the Jewish temple and its worship. In Genesis 6:14-16, God gives Noah precise instructions for building the ark. It is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, roughly 134 by 22 by 13 meters. These measurements seem tied to a numerological focus on the number 60, which also appears in the vessel of the Babylonian flood hero, Utnapishtim. The ark's three internal divisions reflect the three-part universe imagined by ancient Israelites: heaven, earth, and the underworld. Each deck matches the height of the temple in Jerusalem, itself considered a microcosm of the universe, and each deck is 3 times the area of the tabernacle court. This has led scholars to suggest that the ark, like the tabernacle, was designed for the preservation of human life. The ark has a door on its side and a tzohar, which may have functioned as a skylight or roof. It is to be built from gopher wood, gopher, a term that appears nowhere else in the Bible, but may be a loanword from Akkadian gupru. The ark is divided into kinim, a word elsewhere used for birds' nests, which some scholars interpret as kanim, meaning reeds. The finished vessel is to be coated with koper, thought to mean pitch or bitumen. In Hebrew, kaparta is closely related to koper, reinforcing the idea that bitumen was the intended material for waterproofing. So, is Noah's Ark real? What proof exists of its factuality? Keep watching to find out. Noah's Ark existed but missing. The first edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, released in 1771, treated Noah's Ark as a factual account. It even attempted to explain how the Ark could accommodate all animal species. It revealed that Butteo and Kircher have proved geometrically that taking the common cubit as 1.5 feet, the Ark was abundantly sufficient for all the animals supposed to be lodged in it. The number of species of animals will be found much less than is generally imagined, not amounting to 100 species of quadrupeds. The edition also endorsed a supernatural cause for the flood, noting that attempts to explain it by natural means have only tended to discredit philosophy and to render their authors ridiculous. By 1860, the Encyclopedia Britannica began exploring alternative explanations, such as a local rather than global flood. By 1910, it described this shift as part of a gradual surrender of attempts to square scientific facts with a literal interpretation of the Bible, which paved the way for higher criticism and the rise of modern scientific views on the origin of species. By 1875, Noah's Ark was often interpreted within the framework of scientific comparative mythology rather than as literal history. This was literally an attempt by science to discredit facts from the Bible, because scientists did not fully understand it. This is a limitation of science, not the Bible. It goes on to prove that the Bible is a supernatural book. Efforts to locate the Ark stretch back at least to the time of Eusebius. In the 1st century, Jewish historian Flavius Josephus claimed that remnants of the Ark had been found in Armenia, on the mountain of the Kordayans, understood today as Mount Ararat in Turkey. In modern times, searches for the Ark continue, but they are widely regarded by scholars as pseudo-archaeology. There is no scientific evidence supporting the Ark's existence or a global flood. Over the years, many locations have been proposed as the resting place of Noah's Ark, but none have been confirmed. Suggested sites include the Durupanar Formation, Mount Tenderek, and Mount Ararat, all in eastern Turkey. However, geological studies of these locations have only revealed natural sedimentary formations, nothing that conclusively supports the Ark's existence. While biblical literalists often maintain that the Ark was a real, historical vessel, mainstream science rejects both its physical feasibility and the idea of a global deluge. In modern times, some individuals and organizations have attempted to reconstruct Noah's Ark based on the dimensions provided in the Bible. Notable examples include Johann's Ark, completed in 2012, and the Ark Encounter, which opened in 2016. What do you think about Ron Wyatt's account of Noah's Ark? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for staying till the end. We hope you found reasons to believe that the Ark wasn't just a figment of Ron's imagination. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on more interesting stories like this. See you there.